Hello everybody. This video will be for Module 3, Maintaining and Querying a Database. This can be found on page AC 171 in your textbook. I am completing the review assignment at the end of Module 3. Again, this is Maintaining and Querying a Database. The data file that you'll be needing for this is the vendor.accdb file that has been completed with the other two videos that I have recorded. The opening paragraph reads, Kimberly asks you to update some information in the vendor database and also to retrieve specific information from the database. Complete the following. Step 1. Open the vendor database you created and worked in previous modules, and then click the Enable Content button next to the security warning if necessary. So I'm going to go to my desktop. I've got the database vendor right here. I'm going to double click to open it up. And I did not necessarily get that enable for the security, so I'm all set to go. And again, this is previous material that was covered in modules 1 and 2. Step 2, open the supplier table in Datasheet View. So I'm going to go to the supplier table, and by double clicking, that will take me into Datasheet View. This is where you can see all of the data that's currently in that table. Open the supplier table in Datasheet View, and then change the following field values for the record with the supplier ID GGF099. So right there it is, GGF099. It says change the address. So I'm going to highlight the current address that's in there, and I'm going to replace it with 738 space 26th Street. Just like that. Just like it is in the textbook in the instructions. 738 26th Street. The contact phone is to be changed as well. That's right here. So I highlight what's currently in that for the contact phone, and I replace it with 321-296-1958. Okay? Contact first name then gets changed from Brittany to Carmela, C-A-R-M-E-L-A, and the contact last gets changed from Larry to Montoya. Okay. It says close the table. If you feel more comfortable, you can also save it at this point. Don't necessarily have to. It would remind you of that when you close it, but then I close it. If you chose to close without saving, you would have gotten a message that says, do you want to save it? So I believe. Okay, so that's step number 2. Step number 3, create a query. Now remember, what a query is a query allows you to pick and choose just the data that you want to see. So if you've got 15 fields and you only want to see 5 of them in a query, then that's perfectly acceptable. Also, you can restrict the number of records you want to see. So that's a great deal of what we're going to be doing today, is restricting the fields we see and the records we see by creating a variety of different queries. So step 3, create a query based on the supplier table. So the first thing I'm going to do, I always like to do these in little steps. I don't like to read the whole thing and then try to dive right into it. Just do a little bit at a time. So it says create a query. So that means I need to go to the create ribbon. That's where I create everything new. I'm going to go to query design. And it says to use the supplier table. So I'm going to double click here on supplier and click close. Now, if you forgot to bring in the right table, if you brought in the other one by accident, the product table, you can just click on it, hit delete, click the show table box here. That will bring that back up and select the right field. Now, I'm also of the belief that I like to drag the bottom down so that I don't have to see all the scroll bar. I can see all my fields in one view. So I'm going to click at the bottom of my table and drag down. It's much like I illustrated in the relationship window when I did that. All right, so create a query based on the supplier table. Include the following fields in the query in the order shown. So first they want company. So I'm going to double click on company. Again, I'm a double clicker to bring it down. So I've got it down there. Okay. Category. If you're not a double clicker, remember that you can click and drag it down into the next column, which I just demonstrated there. Click and drag it down into the next available column. So I've got company, I've got category. The next one they want is first name. Another way we can do this is click into the next column, drop this arrow down, boy, I'm having some problems here, and choose contact first. So double click, click and drag, or just use the arrow. I'm going to continue now using the double click method. They want contact last, double click, phone, and city. So I've already restricted the number of fields. Out of all the potential fields, these are the only ones that I would like to see in this particular query. All right, it says sort the query in ascending order based on the category field values. So I've got to find category. I then go to the row sort, and I have to be in the right field. So I'm in the second column, category. I go to sort, and they want it in ascending order. So I drop the arrow down and choose ascending. Save the query as contact list. All right, so I'm going to save it, and I'm going to type in contact list and click OK. And then it says to run it. To run a query to see the results of what you've asked for, it's the red exclamation point. If you're not seeing that, make sure you're on the Query Tools Design ribbon. If you click on another ribbon by accident or for another reason, then you must go back here to the Query Tools Design ribbon and click the red exclamation for run. There it is. Okay, so I have completed step number 3. Step number 4, use the contact list query data sheet. This is where we're at right now. This is the query list data sheet when I ran the query. To update the supplier table by changing the phone field value for the A+ Labs to 402. So A+ Labs is right here. They want me to change the contact phone number. So yes, I can change the data in a table using a query. I can do that. That's what they're trying to demonstrate here, is that my change here in this query will now also update the table. So 402-495-3957. I can save my work. So step 4, that's what we did in step 4. Step 5, so we're moving right along here. Step 5, change the size of the font in the contact list query datasheet to 12 points. If you want to do it for the entire table, there's a little box right above the first record and to the left of your first field, a little square there that's hard to see, but that's your Select All button. So if I click the Select All button, when I change the font size, it will change it for everything, which is what they want me to do. And they want me to change it to 12. It's currently 11 font size. Okay, so I'm going to change it to 12, and there we go. Continuing with step 5, it also says resize columns as necessary so that all the field values and column headings are visible. Okay, it looks like maybe some of our companies might be getting cut off. So what we can do here is a little trick. If I get my down arrow right on top of company to select just that first field, then I hold down my shift key and click on the city column. It selects all of them together. Then if I go to the very edge, the right edge of all of the field names, right there, I get a line with 2 arrows, left and right, if I double click, it will resize all of the columns at one time instead of me having to do each one individually. If you do each one individually, you would have to go between each of the field headings up there, get that line with 2 arrows, double click, then go to the next one, double click, and that's kind of tedious when you can do them all at one time with the way I just demonstrated. So step 5 is done. Step 6, change the alternate row color in the contact list query datasheet to the theme color named Gold Accent 4 Lighter 60%, then save and close the query. Alternate row color. That is found on this ribbon all the way over to the right, and you've got the box here that says alternate row color. I'm going to drop that arrow down, and it's telling me to choose the Gold Accent 4 Lighter 60% under themes. So we know it's going to be here. This is themes. There's Gold Accent 4. If I move it down just a little bit, Accent 4 Lighter 60%. There it is right there. I click, and every other row will be formatted with that color. I'm going to save this and close it. And in whatever order you do it, you can close it and then save it as it's closing. But now I'm done with steps 1 through 6 already. Step 7, create a query based on the supplier and product tables. So I'm going to go to Create, Query Design, and bring in both tables. Now remember, the relationship that I created in Chapter 2 is what I'm going to need to complete this exercise, because I'm going to be pulling data from both tables. And the only way you can do that is if your relationship has been created correctly. I'm going to resize both of these boxes like I just demonstrated earlier today, so that I don't have to use the scroll bars. Okay, so continue on with step number 7. Create a query based on the supplier and product tables. Select the company, category, and state fields from the supplier table. All right, so let's do that first. The company, let me read this again. Company, category, so I'm only picking 3 from this particular table, and state. Those are the only 3 they want from the supplier table. And then from the product table, they want me to choose product name, double click, price, units, and weight. All right, so I have a total of 7, 3 from one table and 4 from another table. You can see in the second row it tells you from what table they're coming from. All right, so let me continue to read. Create a query based on the supplier and product tables. Select the company, category, and state fields from the supplier table and the product name, price, units, and weight fields from the product table. Sort the query results in descending order based on price. So I'm going to go to the sort row underneath the field price. You have to be in the right field, and they want it in descending order. Okay. Select only those records with a category field value of supplies. All right, so I have to go to category, and I go to the criteria, because they only want, let me run it right now and just show you. If I run this, I have a bunch of different categories. I have equipment, resale, supplies. Maybe those are the only 3 types. I only want to see those that are supplies. So I'm going to go back to design view, and on the criteria line for category, you have to be on category. If you go to these others, it's going to give you 0 records because it doesn't see supplies in any of those other fields. So we have to be sure we're on the right field on the criteria line, and I type in supplies. Okay. When you click outside of it, it automatically puts quotes around it. You do not have to do that. It just recognizes that is a short text data type, and so it puts quotes around it to represent text, but we didn't have to worry about that. Then the last part of step 7, do not display the category field values in the query results. All right, I always have a handful of students that seem to always refuse to watch these videos. I don't know why, because I got to be honest with you, these videos are very helpful based on feedback from my students. They love the videos. It shows them as though they're in the classroom, and yet they can do it from their living room. But I have a handful that will never watch this, and I can almost guarantee you that most of them will miss this. What they will do is they will come to this and it says do not display the category in the results. They will delete this column, which will be totally incorrect. What they really want you to do is you have to uncheck this show box. Uncheck it. By unchecking that, you will not see that field in the results. But we have to keep it here because we still need the criteria to only bring up those records that are supplies. If you delete the entire column, you have now deleted your criteria and you're going to see all records. So that's really important. And I'll be curious to see if this class is like other classes where people will not uncheck that box. They will delete the entire column. Okay? So be very careful of that. All right. I'm going to go ahead and run this and see what happens. So I'm only got 23 records that apparently the category matches supplies. It's not showing because I unchecked the show box, but everything else is showing. All the fields that I asked for are showing. All right, save the query. So we're going to save this one as supply products. Supply products. And click OK. All right, good job. That's step 7. Step 8, create a query that lists all products that cost more than $50 and are temperature controlled. Display the following fields from the product table in the query results. All right, so let's go to query, query design. Whoops, let's close this other query. I'm sorry, should have closed the other query. All right, create ribbon, query design. And apparently we're picking only fields from the product table. So that's the only table I'm going to bring in. Again, I'm going to bring all this down so I can see all my fields. Okay, so nothing different so far. Create a query that lists all blah, blah, blah. Okay. Display the following fields from the product table in the query results. Product ID, so I double click. Product name, double click. Price, units, and sterile. Okay. Hint, the temperature control field is a yes/no field that should not appear in the query results. Save the query as high price and temp control. Run the query. All right, let's run it right now without putting any criteria in. And what they're referring to is sterile is a yes/no. Check mark means yes, unchecked means no. They want me in this particular case to only pick those that are, doesn't say here. Create a query that lists all and are temperature controlled. Create a query that lists all products that cost more than $50 and are temperature controlled. Display the following fields from the product table. All right. Hint, the temperature. Oh, so we also, I'm sorry, I understand it now. I didn't read the instructions. So this is good that you're watching this video. You can see how this, what they're telling me in the parentheses is that I also need to bring down temperature control. Okay, because I need to use this as a as part of the criteria, but they don't want me to show it in the results. So I'm going to bring temperature control also. Again, I'm going to need it for the criteria because if you read up above, it says and are temperature controlled, but they do not want me to display it in the results. So I'm going to uncheck the show box again. So that took me a little bit to understand that. So sometimes you have to read these instructions more than once to fully get it. So let me run it again, and now we have temperature control, which again, the check marks are the yeses, and the blank ones are no. So I'm going to go back to design view and enter my criteria now. So let me read the first sentence again. Create a query that lists all products that cost more than $50. So I'm going to go to price, criteria, and I'm going to use a greater than sign, just like you would in math or anything else. And then I'm going to put 50. that will retrieve only those that cost more than $50. All right? So you can use your mathematical operators of greater than, less than, equals to, all of that. So I've had students that will write out a sentence in the criteria. And no, you need to use your mathematical operators. And, now when you see the word and, that means that the criteria needs to be on the same line. Because what they're saying is it has to meet both conditions. We're going to be talking about this or in a little bit, but if it says and, keep your criteria on the exact same line. So now I'm going to go to temp control, and I want to put the word yes. That's how we handle a yes-no field. We put yes for those that we want to see that are checked, and no for those that are not checked. Create a query that lists all products that cost more than $50 and are temperature controlled. Display the following fields in the results, but they don't want temp to be in the results or to show, so I'm going to uncheck that box. All right, let's run this and see what we've got. They're all checked. That means, yes, they're sterile, and they are more than $50. Okay? So it has to meet both of those conditions. I will never see any that are unchecked and less than 50. Okay? All right. It says to save the query, and this one we're going to have it called high price and temp control, and click OK, and then close it. Now, if you feel in your heart that I'm going too fast through this, the beauty of watching a video is that you can rewind it, watch it again, rewind it, watch it again. So despite my speed, you do have the opportunity to see it over and over again, which is really nice. So you can see that I'm encouraging people to watch these videos. Okay, step number 9. Create a query that lists information about suppliers who will sell equipment or sterile products. Include the company, category, contact first, and contact last fields from the supplier table and the product name. So we're going to be using both tables. So I'm going to go to Create and Query Design. I'm going to add both tables. So far, pretty similar to what we've done so far today. Again, I'm going to expand my tables. Oops. And now I'm going to add the fields that they want. And a lot of the instructions are just nothing but that, and that is telling us what to include. So it says, include the company. So I'm going to double click on company, category, contact first, and contact last fields from the supplier table. And the product name, price, temp control, and sterile fields from the products table. All right, so now let me read the first sentence again. Create a query that lists information about suppliers who sell equipment, okay, or sterile products. So let's run this without any criteria. So what they're looking for is any about suppliers who sell equipment. So we're going to go to the category, and we're going to use equipment as our criteria to only see those that sell equipment or sterile products. Okay? Or sterile products. So that would be the ones that are checked. So if they say equipment and sterile. All right, let's go back to our design view and let's start putting this together. Who sells equipment. So we're going to go to category, criteria, and I'm going to type in equipment. Okay? But now here's the key thing. Create a query that lists information about suppliers who sell equipment or sterile products. not and. The previous one said and, so we had it on the same line. This one says or. So our criteria for sterile is going to go down an extra row down to the or row. And here we type in yes to represent they do sell sterile. But they're on separate lines, equipment or sterile. Okay? That's a key concept there. And is on the same line, or is on separate lines. So I run this, and we will see some that are not checked, and what that means is they sell equipment. All right? So if I look at the ones that don't have sterile checked, it's because they sell equipment. All right? So that's how you can tell. And I have some that are not equipment over here because they do sell sterile. So it's one or the other. All right, I'm going to save this query. And this one they want me to call equipment or sterile. That's a nice name. Matches exactly what we just did. Equipment or sterile. So that's a big thing from today's chapter, is the difference between and or on your criteria. Okay, I'm going to click OK, and then I'm going to close it. All right, we're on to step number 10. Create a query that lists all resale products along with a 10% markup based on the price of the product. Include the company field from the supplier table and the following fields from the product table. All right, so let's go to Create, Query Design. We're going to bring both tables in. So again, this is a lot of repeat here. Okay, I'm going to resize the tables. Now this one we might have to take a little bit slower to read. All right, so it says, create a query that lists all resale products along with a 10% markup amount based on the price of the product. Let's do this now. Include the company field from the supplier table. So I double click on company from the supplier table. And from the products table, we're going to include product ID. We're going to include product name, price. All right. I'm just reading the rest of the instructions here. Save the query as resale products with markup. Display the discount in a calculated field named markup that determines a 10% markup based on the price field. Set the caption. Okay. So let's run this right now and just see what we have here. Okay. So here's all of our products and everything. So we are going to create a calculated field. This is known as a calculated field to calculate the markup. Okay. Again, this is a good one to be able to watch this video and see how this is done. I'm going to go back to the design view. We're going to go to the very next column that's available. Okay. And it says that they want this to be called markup. So I'm going to type exactly what they want me to call this, markup. Directly after you type what you want this new calculated control to be called, you want to use a colon, 2 dots, because Access says whatever's to the left is what I'm going to call it, whatever to the right is your calculation. So that colon is kind of important. As a matter of fact, it's very important. So far, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to right-click on this, and I'm going to go to Zoom. And I'm going to work in here. It might be a little bit easier for you to see. So I've got the word markup. That's the name of this new calculated field that I'm doing. And I'm doing a colon after I type the word markup. Okay. Now, after that, to the right of the colon, it says, it wants me, I have to read this a number of times, create a query that lists all resale products along with a 10% markup based on the price of the product. So in square brackets, I'm going to type the word price and close my square bracket. The square brackets are to the right of the letter P. All field names in a calculation must be contained within square brackets. And, here's a key thing, they have to be spelled exactly as it is in your field name. For example, if I was using supplier ID and inside the square brackets I did supplier space ID, I'm going to get this thing that comes up that looks like a parameter query that's going to say, I don't know what supplier space ID is. I don't see that in your table. So you have to make sure that you spell it correctly. It is very picky about that, as it should be, because you might have another thing called supplier space ID. But so you want to be exactly as the field name in your table. All right, create a query that lists all resale products along with a 10% markup amount based on the price of the product. So now I can do a times. Now what's confusing me a little bit, along with a 10% markup, I think what they want me to do is not show what the total markup would be, but include that in the regular price as well. So price times, I'm going to do 1.10. That's 10% markup because the 1 is the current price, the 10 represents the markup. 1.10. So that's like saying if I'm getting a raise, a salary raise, and I get a 2% raise, if I only multiply it by 2, that only shows me the increment of the increase. I want it to be added to my current salary. So you would do 1.02 to show the increase in your salary. So markup colon, square bracket, my field name price, multiply key, which is the asterisk, times 1.10. I'm going to go ahead and click OK. Now let me read all of the instructions again. Create a query that lists all resale products along with a 10% markup amount based on the price of the product. Include the company field from the supplier table and the following fields. Save the query as resale products with markup. Display the discount in a calculated field, which we just did, named markup, that determines a 10% markup based on the price field values. Set the caption property markup for the calculated field. Display the query results in descending order by price. So we also have to go to the sort under price and choose descending. Okay. Also, to change the caption of this calculated control, I want to put my pointer right on top of the little row that has markup colon price times 1.1. I'm going to right click and go to properties. And here I can change the caption, and the instructions read change the caption to say markup. So just like we just typed as the field name, markup. Okay? Let's run this and see what happens. So we run it, and we now have a new calculated control that is taking the price and increasing it by 10%. All right? So I'm going to kind of judge that these are correct, that it is 10% of that would be, and that looks right, 1,400. So that looks right. So we've got it. Okay? Now they're going to also have us save this. So of course we're going to click the Save Diskette, and they want us to save this query as resale products. Yep, I'm making sure. I usually wear glasses when I'm doing this, and I took them off. There they are, so I can see better. With markup. All right. Click OK, and we are done with step number 10. Step 11. Modify the format of the markup field in the resale products with markup query, excuse me, so that it uses the standard format and 2 decimal places. Run the query, resize all columns in the datasheet to their best fit, and then save and close the query. So if we go back to design view, our property sheet seems to still be open. But again, if it's not, you right click and go to properties. But since mine's already open, I'm fine here. And they want me to change the format to standard. So I click on format, drop the arrow down, and I pick standard. And then the number of decimal places, I click here, drop the arrow down, and I pick 2. That's all we have to do for step 11. Except we have to save it, run it, and they want me to resize all of the columns again. So I'm going to do the same thing I did earlier. I'm going to click on company, hold down my shift key, and click on markup. I'm going to go to the very far right edge I get that line with 2 arrows up next to my fields. I double click and it resized all my fields as necessary. Okay, I'm going to save it one last time and then close it. Okay, step number 12. Create a query that calculates the lowest, highest, and average product prices for all products using the field names minimum price, maximum price, and average price respectively. Set the caption property for each field to include a space between the 2 words in the field name. Run the query, resize all columns in the datasheet to their best fit, save the query as price statistics, and then close it. Ooh, boy. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go to Create, Query Design, and I think I go to the product table. The reason I say I think is because I want the field called Price, and I'm not exactly sure which table that's in. So I'm going to double click on Product and see what happens. Yes, I got Price there. So I can close this. So I wanted to use the product table. I'm going to bring this down. And here's the key to this thing, is they want 3 statistics for the same field. Minimum price, maximum price, and average price. So I'm going to bring price down 3 times. Double click, double click, double click. Okay? I'm going to close my property sheet. I don't need that open right at the moment, so I'm going to close that. So I've got the 3 prices down there. To get the calculations that they're asking for, I come up here to the big letter E called totals. Looks like the auto sum key in Excel. I'm going to click on that, and when you click on that, you get a new row down here called total. And for each one of my prices, it says group by. I'm going to go to the first one, click, and I'm going to drop the arrow down and pick min for minimum. I'm going to go to the second one, drop the arrow down, and pick max for maximum. And then finally the third one, drop the arrow down and pick AVG for average. Create a query that calculates the lowest, highest, and average prices for all products using the field names. So now what I have to do is for the one that I have as min, which is my first column, I'm going to click to the letter P in price up in my field. I'm going to click to the letter P, and I'm going to call this one minimum price. No space, just all one word, colon. There's that colon again. Anything to the left will be the name that it displays. Minimum price. Now I have to click to the left of the P in the second column, and this one they want to be called maximum price. So I do maximum price, all one word, and then the colon. Don't forget that colon. Maximum price. I got one more to do to the left of the letter P in my third column, and I'm going to type this one as average price and a colon. Okay? Let's all read all this. Create a query that calculates the lowest, highest, and average prices for all products using the field names minimum price, maximum price, and average price, respectively. Set the caption property for each field to include a space between the 2 words in the field name. So I have to right-click on my first one, right-click on minimum price, go to properties, and this time we're going to go to the caption and we're going to put a space in. So it's going to be minimum space price. Then I'm going to click on maximum, the second column, and do the same thing but in the caption, but do maximum space price. And third column, average space price. Now I think we have just about everything. Okay, I've got to run the query. So I run it, and there are my 3 statistics for minimum price, maximum price, and average price. Resize the columns. Well, this time, since there's only 3 of them, I'm going to go double click, go right through the little divider line between the fields, get that line with 2 arrows, double click, and double click. All right, run the query, resize all columns in the datasheet to their best fit, save it, and we're going to call it price statistics, price statistics, T-A-T-I-S-T-I-C-S. Okay, save it. Okay, and then close it. All right, let's turn the page. There's only 3 steps, but on page AC172, so again, we've got 3 steps here. In the navigation pane, that's an area over here that lists all your tables, queries, forms, and reports. Copy the price statistics right here, this one. Copy the price statistics query and then rename the copied query as price statistics by supplier. So I have to right-click on it, choose copy. Come down here under reports. I don't know if that matters, but I'm going to go underneath reports. I'm going to right-click and do paste. This one they want me to call it price. I'm going to cheat a little bit. I'm going to delete what the copy of. Leave the price statistics so I don't have to copy that again. By supplier. Whatever's easier for you. If it's easier for you to just type the whole thing, that's fine. But price statistics by supplier. Click OK. And there it is right there. We made a copy of it. That was all we had to do for step number 13. Step 14. Modify the price statistics by supplier query so that the records are grouped by the company field in the supplier table. The company field should appear first in the query datasheet. Save and run the query and then close it. All right, so we got to modify this. So I'm going to right-click on the one that we just copied, price statistics per supplier, and I'm going to go to it in design view. There's our query that we copied. Okay, I need to add the company field, but it also says it should be the first field in the query. So I'm going to take company. Did it tell me to bring in the product table or the supplier table? Supplier table, I think. Yeah, so I brought the one in. So this is a good illustration to show I can take this one, click in it, hit delete. I'm not deleting the actual table, just from my query. I'm going to go up to the show table and bring in supplier, the correct table. Okay? And I'm going to resize it just because that's my habit. Okay? Move it up a little bit. All right. Being a stickler. Okay. All right. So I want that. What happened to my fields? Okay. What happened to my field? Let's try this all over again. Something's not gelling here. So no, I'm not going to save changes to this. Let's try that again. I'm going to right click on this, go to it in design view. I have no idea what I did. All right. So on this one, oh, I left the product table in. Okay. All right, guys. This is what happened. When I added the product table and I deleted it, well, then I didn't know what to use down here because the 3 fields are currently coming from the product table. So what I had to do was not delete this table, but I actually had to add the supplier table. All right? So I hope I didn't mess you up too much. Hopefully, if I did, you could just delete this and do the recopy, redo step 13. But it didn't bother me too much because I was able to say do not save changes. All right, so here, let's do it correctly this time. I want to take company, and I want that to be the first field. So I'm going to take company, and I'm going to click and drag it right on top of minimum price, and it will actually put it then as my first column. Okay? Now, here's the trick to this. This one, I leave as group by, because now it's going to group by company and give me these results by company, which is exactly what I want. So I'm going to run it. And there it is. I've got it for each company, each unique company. I now know the minimum price, maximum, and average by adding that and leaving it as group by. Isn't that cool? I'm going to save it and close it. All right. So a little hiccup there, but we fixed it, and I'm kind of glad I did that so that you can see how you can fix your mistakes along the way. It's not do or die. All right. Last step. Compact and repair the vendor database and then close it. So I go to File, Compact and Repair is found right there, Compact and Repair, and then I can close my database. And this is saying that it's going to empty the clipboard for me, and that's fine. Okay, say yes, and I'm done. So that's the end of this video. I hope you find this to be very helpful, and if you do, you might want to share that with your other students in the course. If you have a correspondence with any of the other students in the course, you might say that video is fantastic. It helps a lot, and that might get the word across. So thank you, and have a great day. Appreciate it.